Guys, I'm trying this out for you today. See the wonky hand from the GIMP. So a couple of things. Let's just talk about doilies before we get busy and show you how easy this is. First off, really good to invest in a really cheap vinyl tablecloth. Coffee or probably tea as well stains everything. So just get a cheap one that you can use. You can see all the stains on this thing already. And it just protects everything around the house. You can rinse and wipe it off if you want to, but at least it keeps you from staining your counters and stuff. I can tell you from experience, it's really hard to get the coffee stains out after, okay? So, I'm gonna wiggle this for a sec, sorry guys. Doilies. I have an assortment, breathing hard. Plastic doilies. These were given to me by somebody who had some in a family bunch from the 1950s. So you can use, like this is a really long one and I love the pattern. What you're looking for is fairly open spaces. The really tiny ones are just a little harder to get prints out of, but they do work. It's just not quite as clear as well. So here's another one I picked up. Hard to find at thrift stores, at least where I live, but I did find this one. And this one does really clear prints as well. So a couple of things about these. You're never really sure how well they're going to print until you try them out. And if it's a nice day, I really like putting my papers outside to dry. I find you get these really beautiful prints. The colors are a little sharper definition between them, but you can also do them in the house because we don't always have great weather, do we guys? Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is get a sheet of paper, which I'm reaching out of view here for. And you're just going to put it on your vinyl tablecloth. Sorry, it's the broken ribs bothering me, guys. I just use morning coffee and I go down to the dollar store. Don't spend it on expensive instant coffee. They all work the same. And I get the cheapest one I can find of instant coffee. And I mix it in until I get kind of a color I like. I don't know, maybe a quarter to a third of a cup in about a cup of water, a cup of already pre-made morning coffee that you've perked. But give it a try. You know, if you see it coloring the paper and you like the color, that's when it's time to stop. You're better off to kind of experiment and just write down what you used. And when you get to a color you like, stop there. So that is just a paintbrush, and I use and I'm dipping it into my jug of coffee. And you just spread it, and you'll see it soaking into the paper. I have this raised a bit so you can, see the work surface a bit better. So this paper is a little bit big for this. You can use 8.5 by 11. I tend to use the biggest sheets I can get, partly because then it lets me pick the best parts of the print to cut out, or see how it likes to curl a bit. So just don't be rough with it, because once the paper is wet, and this is just plain old copy paper that I pick up at Staples. Sorry, I'm not used to standing quite this long, guys, so the ribs are giving me a grief. And then you just flip it over, okay? And you're going to see it's already starting to wet through. Paper gets more delicate as you go, so try and be really careful when you're brushing, not to get impatient with it. If you've got wrinkles, I just kind of consider that as part of the paper. But if you like it a little flatter than that, just lift the corners gently and get it wet. And then, so this is really no rocket science to this, as you can see. Okay, and then you should smell the place. It smells really nice. It smells like coffee. Okay, and then I'm going to get my same piece of doily, just so you can see what we're doing. And this one has a few issues, but I don't really care. You know, there's a few places where it's got gaps in it, And I see there's some paper has stuck, and that will affect the print that you get. But you know, it's coffee dyeing. It's not rocket science, and you can either trim around them or trim them off, or just count that as part of the joys of using old pieces of recycled stuff. And I kind of just push this down until it's mostly flat. If you have areas that don't sit down really flat, don't worry excessively, but it will make an area where you don't get as clear a print. And then I just brush over this ever so nicely with a slightly damp brush. Spread it around nicely. You see, I should have rinsed a bit of the paper off of this. It's got a few sticky bits. Okay, and you just brush it in like that. And then you let it sit until it's dry. Now, I've done both. I did one a bit earlier this morning, and I put it out in the sun to dry. And then I thought I would just show you how I do this if I am stuck inside and it's not really good weather, and now I'm going to make lots of noise, okay? So then you would just let that brush until I see a little bit of a spot where the paper is really white here, so I'm just going to wet that down a bit more, okay? And we're just spreading it around, okay? And then you get your hair dryer, and you turn it on, and you just dry it straight up and down with the blow dryer, so you're not forcing the wet coffee underneath this plastic doily, because the doily makes like a resist. So anywhere where the doily is sitting is going to be whiter, and anywhere where the holes are in your doily is going to be the coffee color. So then you just blow it like that, and you will see the paper change color, and it gets lighter and lighter. I'm just going to blow one edge here so I can show you kind of what it looks like if I get it more or less dry. So bear with the noise. Sorry, guys. Okay, well, you get the idea. And as you lift it, you see, you can I'm not sure you can see that, but if I lift this up, or I don't know, can you see the pattern starting to form in there? So that's really what you want to do. The coffee will pool and push its way out from underneath the plastic, and it moves it over into the spots where there's holes. And the reason, again, you don't want to push this sideways like this is because you will push the coffee and blur your print, okay? So now let me just take the time to show you the one I did earlier today that was outside in the sun. Okay, so here it is. Can you see it? Yeah, I think you can see it. Okay, so, and what I like about the sun, if you can get it outside, but and you can see where the areas, I hope you can see that, where it's a little blurry. Some of these you can trim off. I don't necessarily dislike them. It just kind of makes it more interesting. And, you know, it is a print. It's not perfect. So the sun, when it's outside, tends to keep the coffee sitting exactly where it was without disturbing it. And the heat dries it, even today, which wasn't terribly warm, dries it pretty quickly. And the colors are really pretty sharp and clear. When you use the blow dryer and you blow, it's still putting air there that's kind of pushing the coffee, even though you're holding it straight up and down. It will push the coffee, and you seem to get a slightly softer print. And if you will still get a print off of this if you took it off now and the paper is still wet and you blow it dry. But because the paper is wet, the coffee sort of works its way back into the paper fibers, and you get a much softer and less distinct difference between the lace pattern and the coffee on the back. So I don't know, can I show you on a piece here? I'm hoping you can see that. So if I blow it now, it hasn't even haven't been on there that long, and the paper is definitely nowhere close to dry. So let's just do this for a couple of seconds and I can show you what I mean. Or at least I hope I'm going to show you what I mean. This is drying pretty well here in this section. Oh. I'm going to have to go sit down after this. I'm getting tired. Okay, so let me stick a piece of paper under there. And you can see, even though the paper is not dry, that this has a print. And it has not been on there for very long. But again, if I show you the difference in the color, now this is not fully dry, so it's going to dry a little bit warmer brown than that. But you can see how distinct the print is on the one that's been out in the sun, and how much softer that print is. So it depends on which one. You can alter them either which way, and it doesn't stop you from getting prints in the winter time or when the weather is lousy. It just means that they're going to be different than if you stuck them out in the sun. Sometimes you might not want them to be that distinct. Now, if I let this sit and dry more, it's still going to be a different color than the sun print and much softer. But it will hold it there. As the paper is still damp, like I said, the water will spread, the coffee water will spread back into where the resist was, and it makes for a less distinct print. Okay, how easy is that? So I'm going to send you guys a couple of doilies so you can make your own paper. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. Okay. Okay, so I've got that done. Hope you guys are gonna see that. That's like so cool. All right, and I don't really care. All right. Oh. Put this out. This is going to dry. Oh, that is going to dry. Picks up other things that go in there, and I don't really care about that. You know, it just makes it more interesting. Okay. All right, so coffee time. There you go. Regular morning drip coffee. Mix it with, I don't know, something like a third of a cup of that. Right. I only do a few sheets at a time because that's all I've got the energy for. there we are. All right, guys, I've done it. So this is really just me looking around with these. Oh, my ribs are sore now. Standing too long. Yep, feels good to be up for a while. Get my elbow doing something it should be doing, not something it shouldn't be doing. But I am just going to put these up here. Okay. So let's just do this. This is going to go. That's going to go. These guys are going upstairs. These guys are going upstairs. Okay. It's like so ridiculously easy. It's hard to believe anybody struggles with it. Oh. Okay. Okay. I cleaned up. This is going to be a challenge because whoops. I hope it's not still recording. I pushed stop.